We worked on blurring text. We're going to do a blur text again, but this time we're going to make it a little different. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to import into my library the two logos that I created in Adobe Photoshop. And all you have to do is go to File, Import, and then Import to Library. So import to library, and I'm in Summer Flash here, and what I'm going to do is use logo 2, which is just our Photoshop. Let me go ahead and open our library window so you can see that. Here's logo 2, and import to library again, logo 2 blur. So now what I have is this and this. Okay. So we're going to kind of do the same thing, except we're going to add some motion blur as well as alpha blur. So remember, what we're going to do is I'm just going to grab this, put it here. Let's get this to show frame. Oops, not frame, show all. We're going to make this a little smaller because it's a pretty good size. It's actually, let's see, 250, or no, 300 by 100, and this stage is obviously much smaller. You'll see that this stage is 250 by 100, and I set it up because we're going to do some playing later with another tutorial. Okay, I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to go to Edit, Paste and Center, because we want this to be in the center. We want that logo right there to be in the center. Then on top of that, I'm going to take this, I'm going to go to another layer, and I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to drop it here. I want to come in here and figure out how big this is though. Okay, so I want to see 127 by 42 because I want the one on the bottom to be the same size. So this was 147 by, oops, I don't remember, 42, or 127, my bad. So this is 127 by 42. Okay, so that's roughly right about there. We're going to do the same thing by, oops, selecting it, cutting it, and then when we're here, we're going to edit, paste, and place. So now we have those two on top of each other. I'm just going to drop this one on top. Now what we want to do is, this is going to be our ending location, so I'm going to come over here to say 40, and I'm just going to drop in a bunch of frames. Okay, oops, I should have got all those too, but I didn't. Insert frames. So now we have everything here. What I'm going to do at this point here is I'm going to insert a blank keyframe. Oops, layer 3. I'm going to insert a keyframe, not a blank keyframe, but a keyframe, because this is our ending position. It's not our starting position. I'm also going to insert right here another keyframe, and I'm going to get rid of this layer, this frame here. So all you see is this as you scrub the timeline. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this keyframe, I'm going to hold the shift key down, and I'm going to actually move this out of the way, off the stage. And I want it to be in a straight line when I move it. So let's scrub our little timeline here. And it doesn't look like I have it in the straight line, so let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go back here. I'm going to go back, insert keyframe. Oh, I don't want to do that. Let's try this all over again. There we go. So right here is, let's undo this one more time so that when we set this down, there we are. We're back to where we were. Alright, I want to move this. I need to hold it down, hold the shift key down, and I'm going to move it. Oops, let's try again. Every time you move it out of the window, it messes up its little hold that the shift key has on it, so you have to really stay within that window. Alright, so I'm going to come here, and if I scrub the timeline, I have this, and then I have that final maneuver, and I really don't want that. I need to go in here and do a couple of things. I'm going to come in here, right mouse click, create motion tween. So now what we have is this motion tween that says, ooh, boom. I need also to do one more thing, and that is to alpha this color. So when we get here, we have this alpha color is to 0. So now what's happening is I have this motion tween that comes in. And again, we're going to end up with a little bit of a problem because why? Well, our alpha isn't taking very long to get there. So we have to make some choices when we do these kinds of things. Remember in the blur tutorial, it was pretty easy because it was sitting really over the image. So when it blurred, it looked like the text was blurring and then it was fading out to the crisp text. We have to really watch this and see how we want this to come up in this case. So what we have to do is really watch to see that come in. And you know, it's kind of hard. It's one of those things where you really have to go in and play with it because you want it to be, you want it to be relatively close, and so that means probably this shouldn't be that far out in the timeline. But again, we're with the same problem here in that what probably should happen is we're not going to apply an alpha tween here. In fact, what we probably should do at this point is leave it here so that they're both in the same location here, and then do the alpha tweening. So we have this happen here. Let's move this back here. Right about there. We'll insert another keyframe here. And then what we can do with this is kind of one of those trial and error things. You want to go in and look at it to see how it works. And let's see how that looks now. So we have this motion tween. And see, that's not working real well for us either because we want this to be in this location here. So let's put it there. What happens? There it is. So what we have is this happening right here. So let's hit Control Enter. Here's what it looks like coming in. And the reason you're getting this is because I have this background here. Let me go ahead and dump that. So let's hit Control Enter. And there it is. Not too bad. And remember, this is kind of one of those trial and error things where you got to figure it out, try it out, and see if you like the way it works. The other thing that we could have probably done is when we get to this point here, we can probably take this graphic and straighten it up. Okay, which means we can probably get these lines to be straight up and down. We have to go back into Photoshop and create a second image, which would mean we'd have 3 images. We'd have the logo, a mid blur, and then the blur, and then maybe a final blur, so that what's happening is that this image is uprighting itself. We could easily do that as well if we want to play with this image right here at this point. I'm going to turn this off so you can see what I'm talking about. If we are in this point here somewhere, when we're playing with this image, we could actually come in and start to adjust it if we wanted to. That's completely up to us. But by clicking this, let's see if we can, let's play around a little bit. Who knows? Sometimes things just happen. Yeah, see, it's not giving us, it's not coming in enough. It's rotating, but it's not rotating enough. So we would probably have to come in here at this point, maybe insert a keyframe, see if we could get this image to twist more so that it looks like it's going to actually come in and finish. So let's see what happens if that happens. And you know, this is again one of those things where we might want to, yeah, there we go. That doesn't look too bad. And what's happening is we can see that it's moving, the text is moving, and it's coming into focus now. We probably, just an idea, might be able to do it, or might want to do it. Let's delete this out of there. Actually, let's clear the keyframe. Right here. This is probably where we might want to start to play with this so that it becomes more upright. And then let's look at that and see how that looks. I think I like the other one better, actually. I think I like the way that one kind of comes in better, because this one's got a lot going on, and I think I want that image to be more upright when it gets to this point. And again, it's just one of those things of playing with it. Now see, I think we're too far up right here. Let's look at it, bring it back a little bit. This is kind of that part where, you know, you learn to tweak stuff. And it comes into focus. Now that's not too bad, so let's hold Control Enter. Notice how small this logo is, by the way. It's real small because it's only 250 by 100. So it's small enough to probably be maybe a small ad on a web page or something, a button or an image that you can use in Photoshop, in your web page, for Dreamweaver or one of your HTML programs that you can drop in there. You can make this an active button. You can give it all kinds of properties. In fact, you could even use it within Dreamweaver as, you know, a button. Remember, you know, this is one of those animation things where we can easily turn this into a button. Now, one more thing. Let's move our action layers up. We'll put a stop action on this because we surely do not want this to continue to move. So we're going to put a blank keyframe in there. Go to actions, and by now you should be pretty familiar with the stop command. Terminate that correctly. And let's see, now let's go Control Enter, and here's our movie, and boom, it stops. Good. The other thing that if you wanted to do this, you could do it quite easily. You have a couple of options. You could turn this into a button, or we can do what we always do. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you real quick how I can still keep this image and yet put a button on it. So I'm going to type in button, or invisible button. Okay. Now, right here, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to grab this. I don't want to stroke around it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this. I didn't want it to be that. I want to be able to see it though, so for right now I'm just going to put that on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify. Okay, convert to symbol, turn it into invisible button, turn it into a button, hit OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this because I have the button already. Delete it. I'm going to go into my button, and actually I'm going to get rid of this color. Let's do this again. Control Z. I'm going to get rid of this color. How do I do that? Gosh, I don't know. What do you think? Actually, what I can do is I'm going to come back in here, go back to button. I'm going to make this a movie clip. Convert to symbol. We can make it a graphic even if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to call this invisible. It's probably going to tell me can't do that. Button. Okay, hit OK. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to change it. I'm going to change the alpha so that there's no alpha. Okay, so now when I come back here and I grab this invisible button, I'm going to grab this. And in this, let's put the blank keyframe right there. I'm going to grab my little invisible button, put it right there, over that. So now, notice it says track as button. So now when I go to play with it, hit enter. And now when I put my little finger, my mousey over this, it turns into a button. So now I've taken my animation and I've kind of, if you work with Dreamweaver, this is kind of similar to creating a hotspot. We've put a button over it, and yet it doesn't know that it's a button. We can't tell it's a button because what we did is we just kind of put an invisible button over it. This is nice because I can use this invisible button a ton of times on my web page and just program the button itself. So now if I want, I can just come in here. I'm going to close that. I can grab this button, go to my actions, and now, you know, when you say on press, Okay, we want it to do something, remember? And then we're going to say what? Well, we're going to tell it to do something. We're going to tell it on press. And remember, this was get URL, our get URL little buddy that we did. Oops. This is where we put our little get URL buddy in here. So again, on, let's do this right, on, and then I want to tell it to do something either on press or I can do it on release. Okay, so I can do this either on press or when they release the button. Okay, and this should be similar to our URL. We're going to put our bracket in here. So we put our bracket, we hit enter, enter, and I want to close those brackets. Okay, and inside, remember it says get URL, and then we have to tell it what URL we want it to get to. All right, and that is, let's see, get, oh, don't forget your quotes. And we got the pop-up window, get URL, and it's saying, okay, well, what URL? And do you have a window, and do you have a method? And in this case, we're just going to say we want it to go to, let's say, Educate Online, and then we'll talk about whether we want it to open a window or a blank window or anything like that. So it says HTTP, so we need the absolute address, www.educateonline.org. Okay, close that, hit a comma, now we put underscore, and then we say blank, but let's do this. Put your quotations because we're telling it to do something. Blank, okay, and then close that, terminate it, and close our curly bracket. So if this all works right, if we've put in all the right stuff, if we hit Control Enter, the button becomes available. I click on it, and guess what? It worked. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so you know what? You can think of tons and tons of different ways, I'm sure, to use this. This is not just blurring and moving the text, but it's also creating an invisible button this time. Because this time what we're not doing in this tutorial is we aren't creating this as a button. We're just putting a blank button over it. Okay, so this is another one of those opportunities where we're actually moving blurred text. Now I'm sure you could think of logos, I'm sure you could think of tons and tons of things that would work. If I had a graphic that came in with this, that's why this invisible button works really well, is that I could have this whole big graphic behind it, and I don't want the graphic to be clickable, I just want the URL to be clickable. That's why I can make it an invisible button, and then I don't have to take it all apart, turn it into button properties. I get the whole same shebang by just putting together this invisible button as well. Okay. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, email me, give me a call, or come by and see my office hours. And hopefully you can modify this to fit your logos and your design needs. Remember, this is just a real small, again, this is just a real small image. I hate to deviate from ending the tutorial, but this is just 250 by 100, so this is as big as it gets. This obviously isn't its own web page, but this gives you an idea of how to construct logos, text, do all kinds of fun stuff with it. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial.